Hello there. I was surfing the internet and found this graph of GDP to life expectancy and thought, there's a great problem in here for this bivariate set of data, and I can use it to help talk about the different types of outliers. So let's start with us, the United States. Way out here at the end, we are by far the furthest along the GDP for this graph here. Actually, I suppose we should mention that I think this graph was cherry-picked, that there are actually other data points out further along. I think Luxembourg is one of them, but it's so far off the side it's not on this graph. And I think whoever was publishing this graph just wanted to illustrate how high up the United States is. Okay, so United States. At least for this graph, it's by far the furthest one along the GDP. However, as far as life expectancy goes, there are plenty that are higher than it. So it's not an outlier for life expectancy. Please remember, when you spell outlier, it's not a liar. Alright, let's look at Japan next up here. Japan, if you line everything up, left to right on GDP, there are plenty of countries with a smaller GDP, and plenty that with a higher GDP. So Japan is not a GDP outlier. However, it is the highest up on life expectancy. There are others coming close, but it's really high. It's all those centenarians in Okinawa living forever, eating their miso soup and goya, champuru. Yeah, they're going to live a long time. Alright, so Japan is a life expectancy only outlier. Then we have these other points, like, well, plenty to choose from, but let's go with Russia. Next, I want to eyeball the general trend of this graph. I'm never quite satisfied with my sketches for these, but this is the general trend. It accelerates quickly in the beginning and then fans out. And we see that Russia falls outside of that general trend pattern. There's actually plenty down here that also fall outside, but I was going to pick on the Russian Federation. So, what can we say about it? Is it a GDP outlier? No. The GDP of around $11,000, there are plenty of countries that people are making less, and plenty that are making more, so that doesn't stand out. Drawing in a horizontal line there for life expectancy, there are plenty of countries with lower life expectancy and plenty with more, so that one doesn't stand out either. What does stand out is Russia falls outside of that general trend. So this is only an outlier when GDP and life expectancy are jointly considered. It's the combination that makes it unusual. For that amount of GDP, that is a rather low life expectancy. Or for that life expectancy, that's actually kind of a high GDP. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to talk about here is how to describe this kind of graph. And we always want to mention strength, direction, and shape. Do direction first. This is positive. As GDP increases, life expectancy is increasing. We're going to also say that it varies in strength. It's more clustered down here. It fans out a little bit. Now, some of them we've seen fan out even more, but it makes sense to say that this one varies in strength. And it's not linear, it's not elliptical, this one curves. Accelerates quickly in the beginning and then tapers off. Alright. So, what did we learn from this graph? As GDP increases, people want to live longer. Wait a second. That doesn't make sense. Maybe we should talk about lurking variables next lesson. Character and Scholarship for Life.